If you're somebody who's an energy sensitive, you're more likely to think that you might be empathic. You've definitely got empathic abilities. It's just that you end up sitting more in the victim dynamic of that triangle than in the empath dynamic of that triangle. And last time I also spoke about how that hero is either saving somebody or sticking up for somebody if you're an empath, because you feel into somebody's situation, and that can be perpetuated, and it can look in our life as though we're trying to fix people all the time. And equally, we do fall into that victim category from time to time. If we're perpetuating the same dynamic, then we need to think about why we're perpetuating that dynamic. We can from time to time sit in the villain, and there are people who quite clearly are villains who sit in that. As the empath, it's very easy for us to see somebody who is, for all intents and purposes, playing the role of villain in many people's lives, and to understand why they've got themselves into that position, and to give them more and more second chances. And that's when healthy boundaries and things like that really do need to step in, and how the victim can also end up becoming the villain in that triangle as well, as somebody who is used to creating drama, used to getting attention for drama, and spotting those people. And I'm not going to say those people are narcissistic, because narcissism, genuine narcissism, is an actual personality disorder. We've all got narcissistic traits to a certain extent, and spotting when those narcissistic traits are too strong in somebody, or too strong in that relationship dynamic, and we can't fix that relationship dynamic, we might have to step away from it. So what I was going to speak to you this month was about energetic tips that you can use. Some of these are going to be magical based, and what's really amazing about a lot of coaching stuff that I do with people is that you can use it in some sort of magical way. Everything we do is energetic, right? Even if we do something physical, it's energetic. So my perfect sandwich is doing all of this energy work up the top and all of the higher chakras, and then bringing it down into the physical realms and doing physical work too, doing magical work, attaching it from both ends. So those blocks that we often have around mindset or around emotional stuff, moving, we're going to kind of get around those in some way, because it's those blocks that we really want to get to the core of, and we really want to shift, right? And we don't often know what those blocks are. We approach it from a spiritual perspective, we approach it from a magical earthly perspective, then energetically those two kind of chains should meet. And what you're going to find is that you've kind of got to the root of your problem by approaching it from both directions. So I want to talk about some sort of coaching stuff that you can weave into magical work, right? Okay, so journaling is a really amazing work, and I have got a really great journaling download, a free not free download, but a download on my shop, of questions that I find really useful at different times in my life. Around this specific triangle, what we're looking at is hero. Where is this disabling me? Where is being a hero disabling me? Is this a role I like to sit in? Does it somehow boost my ego? Does it make me feel valid? To be a hero, is this a way of feeling needed? Questions to ask yourself in journal around, absolutely, where is it disabling me? Where is this currently unhealthy for me? We are still just physical beings. There is, infinite energy available in the universe, and we don't always remember that. And our bodies need to regenerate, restore in order to gain that energy. Sleep, food. So if you find that you need to sleep more, or you're having issues with sleep, or you're eating a lot, it's because your body needs more energy in some way, and those are signs that your body is probably out of whack with its energy source. So thinking about that differently, right? And for me, if you're not out of energy, don't worry about your food. First of all, worry about your water. Minimally, I would have said over 2 litres a day. If I drink 2.5 litres a day, I feel amazing. That's where your main energy source is going to come from. So focus back on your water if you're thinking about getting your energy back. And then energetically, what you want to do to top yourself up is to think about, in fact, I've got a really good post about your relationship with food, which I can tag into this, make a note to do that. Relationship with food post, I'll tag into this. But focus on your water from a physical perspective. Don't beat yourself up about your diet, please. Energetically, sitting down, taking that time out, ritual bath with some beautiful flowers, calling in the energy from those flowers, thanking those flowers, calling some Reiki energy in, putting your crystals around, connecting into those crystals, not just plopping them around the bath, connecting into those crystals. Imagine them forming amazing sacred geometric shapes above the bath, and then relaxing, taking some time out, listening to some music. If you've got a very active, overthinking, ADHD style mind, then having some music on in the background, or having a guided meditation in the background, is normally a really good idea. Doing some self-healing, that type of thing. All of those things are going to recharge your batteries. Meditative walking, where you're walking and you're really immersed in it, you've left the phone at home or you've switched it off. All of that type of thing is, again, really, really important and really useful at regenerating your energy. Anything creative is going to regenerate your energy as well, because it's connecting you into your subconscious while you're awake. And that subconscious is your connection into the divine, and you're drawing that energy down, and actually releasing a lot of stuff as well. You're kind of like charging yourself and souping yourself up when you're doing your creative work. So all of that's really important. So doing some creative things in order to pep your energy up. So asking yourself some difficult questions, looking at your energy levels, if you might be sat in that hero dynamic. And when you've done some journaling, what you do with that journaling afterwards is really important. When you do journaling, what I say is leave everything out there, like leave everything on the page. You might do a voice note, and you might want to do something energetic with that voice note, but be honest, be honest about maybe anger, pain, upset, disappointment, all of those icky feelings that we don't, like addressing, or as spiritual people we're told are bad, and they're not. They're absolutely normal human emotions, which you are specifically here to experience. So leaving all of that stuff on the page. If you're doing something in terms of healthy boundaries, you don't want this energy in your life anymore. You want to rid it. And ridding yourself of that energy, you could choose a specific time in the moon if you want to do it that way. However, I would also say when it feels right is also the right time. So don't think I need to wait for a certain moon cycle, because you are your own dowser. You are on your own cycle. You have got your own connection into the earth and the planets. So whenever it actually feels right for you, it's going to be the right time to do it. You could tear that piece of paper up into a million pieces and say every swear word that comes into your mouth, or shout and scream at it, and that feels better. You could go out to the woods and bury it somewhere, bury it in a graveyard somewhere. And I don't mean near a grave. I mean, you can go in, find some earth, just put some stuff in it, put some stones in it, and go like, this is dead to me now. I physically removed myself from it. You could burn it, and then be obviously really careful when you're using anything. Don't leave unattended candles, all of that stuff. Burn it, take the ashes, wrap it up in some newspaper, and dump it in a public bin somewhere far away from you, because that's what you think, it's a load of rubbish. You could light some candles with it if you're going to do it that way. Call in guidance, call in divinity, thinking about your boundaries. I've got a really good boundaries exercise, which I think is somewhere here on YouTube, so I can add in that as well. That's a really good thing to do if you're looking to build up your boundaries, is my inner circle, outer circle. It's definitely on a blog. So I will get that link in here as well for you. If you're watching this on Instagram, you probably I'll pop them into YouTube. If you pop over to YouTube at some point, I'll have it all uploaded. And I'll have the links in there as well in the comments. So once you've done that journaling work, doing something with it afterwards, and I don't condone littering, but you might throw it into the water. Think about what your star sign is. Think of, and by that I mean your sun sign, or what's predominant in those, ascending sun, moon, aspects of your star chart, think about what energies you resonate with. You know, the earth is covered massively in water. And if you're somebody who comes in the empath vibration, water is very much associated with that. So you don't necessarily need it to be in your main signs for you to really associate with that. All life comes from water. So using those elements in order to get rid of it are really important. You know, fire is amazing because it creates ends and beginnings, which is why I personally like fire. If I've kind of got to the end of something, I've got to the end of it. And remember that when you're building up healthy boundaries, what you're not looking to do is to cut that person out of your life necessarily. What you're looking for is that relationship to be rerouted, and this is always your intention. I suggest you do boundary exercises, which is, you know, people might call them tie cutting exercises, on a regular basis, with the idea that you will rebuild those relationships, you will rebuild your emotional ties to people, but they need to be rebuilt in a way that's healthy for both parties. So if the other person is completely unwilling in any way to change the dynamic that's going on in their head about your relationship, that relationship isn't going to change in the real world. So in those cases, you're going to find that you have to physically distance yourself from those people. Sometimes what we find is that we end up distancing ourselves from people just while we're going through the healing process, and it might be easier to be around them at a later point. But the universe is going to kind of help you with that anyway. And if you don't listen to the signs from the universe, this is normally when we end up having big fallouts and big arguments with people. Or you think, like, where did that come from? Like, we have this dynamic in our head that we're either friends or enemies. There's nothing in between. People can't sit in a neutral place in our life, and that's not true. That good and evil dynamic is like, from my perspective, there might be other religions out there who, and you might say, actually, that's the religion I was brought up with, and it really resonates, is a Christian, modern day Christian Catholic outlook. Not Jesus, it's got nothing to do with Jesus, but that good and bad dynamic, evil and you know, purity, that there's nothing in between, that we have to fall out with somebody or be friends with them and there's nothing in between. That's not true. People, if we hold on to relationships like that, they become barbed wire in our hand, and that's when they end up being ripped out of our hands and hurting, when we end up with those massive arguments, those massive fallouts. And I see it with people, they look for a reason to fall out with you because they're peed off with you about something. They're peed off with you about something. You know, I'm really happy that I'm not going to agree with everybody about everything. That's okay. Like, we're supposed to, that's what we're supposed to do. We're not supposed to agree with everyone around everything. However, for some people that dynamic isn't there, and then they look for a reason to fall out with you and they'll find it. And you're like, why on earth have they got funny over that? Do they not know me? You know, I thought we were friends. And you can see that they're still sat in that dynamic, which is sad for them. But if that's where the relationship needs to be for you as well as for them, because they're not in the same space or it's become unhealthy for them, then that's fine. You know, at some point they may or may not come out of that dynamic. It's interesting. So I think being really aware for everyone of a healthy relationship dynamic, doesn't have to be good and evil, that there's a whole spectrum where people are your inner circle. They might sit just outside of that, or they might be people that you really don't want around you, that there's a wide spectrum. And my boundaries exercise actually really neatly does that. My inner circle, outer circle, and Arctic circle boundary exercise really neatly does that. So healthy boundaries around that are important. Simply recognizing that you're in this either a two-way or a three-way dynamic is also really important. And just noticing that is going to be enough for you to go, okay, I need to step away. What I will be doing at the end of this video is a violet flame, which, you know, if you're an empath, you come in strong in the empath vibration, you're healing trained in any way, or you've been doing spiritual work for a while, you're going to find that this will work really well for you, in order to kind of heal that situation in our lives, however it looks. So two-way dynamic, three-way dynamic, it doesn't matter, that you know, people are sat in those boundaries. If you find that people have to fall into the villain category for you to stop being friends with them, again, you've got that dynamic set in your head where you're either friends or you're not friends. That's not a healthy way to look at relationships and to look at people within society as well. So think about that. If people have to swap into the villain from the from the either the hero or the victim into the villain for us to recognize that there's a problem, then we're probably not spotting the signs and listening to the cues from people and from the universe at the same time when looking at those healthy boundaries. If you look back at maybe the last 3 or 4 relationships that you've had where either somebody's had to switch from villain or from hero to villain, or from victim to villain, or think about the last 2 situations where you've kind of saved somebody, or you've even had somebody come in on that complete villain vibration and you've not listened to your boundaries and you've just allowed them to kind of stomp all over your energy, or stomp all over you as a person, then look for things around this. Does this reflect anything from my childhood, which is quite often where we build that stuff. Up until about 25, we're probably going to find traumas which happen then are much more pronounced on our psyche and on our energy. And thinking about under the age of 7 as well, those are the really, really important times. So, you know, relationships with friends, relationships with family, all of that is going to sort of play out for patterns that get set up. But again, think about all the way through to your teenagers, up until about the age of 25. I'd be interested to know how many of you had big life changes around your mid-20s. I certainly did. And I remember thinking 25 is like the age when you kind of know yourself. And I saw it in a lot of friends at the time. And since I found out that your brain dynamic, again, changes and swaps at around that age. And your brain literally starts working a different way on different frequencies and different vibrations. And when I say frequency and vibration, this is all scientific stuff where people have tested brain waves. And this isn't woo-woo, this is science, which is also woo-woo, by the way. So thinking about those dynamics, thinking about patterns, thinking about, oh my God, this reflects this relationship, or I can see where this started, or why for the last few years have I gone through a spate of these? Why do I need to be needed? Why do I need to see somebody as a victim? Why do I need to see somebody as a hero? What is it giving me? You know, when we have a really difficult situation in our lives, this is the biggest question that you need to ask yourself. How did this serve me? How did this serve a need in me? And it's a really hard question because, let's face it, we don't want to think about how something negative in our life we actually wanted in some really weird way. And it's what a lot of us will call the self-saboteur. How did this serve me? How did this negative situation actually serve some weird dynamic within myself? To be needed, or to be wanted, or to be the hero, or to be seen in a certain way. And thinking about those questions. Those questions are really, really important. How did this serve? And again, like, that's all inner work. Write down the inner work. You might spend 2 weeks journaling about that stuff. I've got traits of ADHD and traits of autism. I tend to hyper focus on that stuff. So it might be that I go through 2 or 3 evenings where I will just like mass journal this stuff, get it all out of my head. It might be that I have conversations with friends around it and get it all out of my head, because that's how the way that journaling works, or the way that talking about stuff works, is it makes it external to us. When we make it external, we can see it with outside perspective. We're talking to somebody else, we get their perspective, which is really important to have good friends, not yes people around us, people who kind of look at stuff with objectivity, and say difficult things to us. And then you have to be a big enough person to accept that difficult stuff and to listen to it as well. So when you get it outside, it's not part of you anymore, it's external to you. Also, when you've written it down, you've made it physical, you've brought it into the physical realms. We know energetically things will try to ground themselves out. Writing something down grounds it out, it makes it physical, it brings it into the physical realms, which is why you're able to then deal with it magically, and deal with it in a different way. So you might have processed it all up here in your mind, but actually haven't processed the emotions down here, in your gut. So writing things out are going to help you process that emotion. And you will get rid of one load of stuff out of your head, and you go, oh, actually that wasn't as bad as I thought it was, it wasn't as big as I thought it was, or oh my God, there's all this other icky stuff underneath that, or I can see why did I think that? you're going to go through all of that. So expect, if you start journaling around a certain subject, for it all to come out. And yeah, incorporate it into any, tie cutting. You'll find banishing spells. If you Google banishing spells, and I wouldn't recommend that you do actually, banishing spells are, some people's banishing spells are going to be really good. Some people's are going to be shite because they don't really understand what's going on energetically behind it. So, if you can find a banishing spell and it works for you and fits for you, fine, but don't literally copy what somebody else has done, because it's not always going to work for you in the same way. Or talk to somebody who you trust in order to help you develop a banishing spell that's going to work for you. Banishing spells are about banishing stuff from you. I feel like this about that situation, and I want to banish this emotion from me. I don't want to have that unhealthy relationship. I don't want to banish that person from my life. It's that dynamic that I want to banish. So think about banishing spells that don't bind people. Think about banishing spells that actually work on you, that work on your emotions and what's going on for you. So you can use the basis of a banishing spell on yourself in order to make yourself feel better or change the dynamic around the relationship. My favorite banishing spell is, I've got two. One is to get white flour, white sugar, and some white salt. Put it all in your hand. Call in whichever energies you like to work with, whichever deities, angels, all of that stuff. Put all of the crappy energy that's going on into that. Okay. Ask for balance. Ask for justice. Ask for everything to be realigned as it needs to be. Okay. And then you're giving this away to the wind. If you stand on a crossroads, you can blow it away. And I live near a crossroads, and I actually throw it out of my window towards the crossroads. If not, throw it out of a window and put it away on the wind, and just allow it to go away from yourself. Which is the idea. You're ridding yourself of that dynamic of the rubbish that's going on, and talk to that. Tell it everything. All of that stuff that you might have written down, you can talk to it and tell that pile of flour, salt and sand, which is kind of like absorbing all of that rubbish and purifying it because of the color. And also white gives it no intention. So the intention is that it serves your best interest, your personal best interest, and your highest good as well. You want both of those served. My life's path as well as my spiritual path served, both of those. Okay, it's a really good banishing spell. I sometimes put a bit of cinnamon or something into it to kind of warm it up and bring a nice sweet outcome to it. But cinnamon's also really good from an abundance perspective. It's also good because it's cleansing, because it's got those antibacterial properties in the actual plant. So, it's going to get rid of the rubbish as well at the same time. Give it a bit of warmth, spice it up a little bit. Might get up certain people's noses, that type of thing, in order to really give it a good cleanse through. The other one that I like doing is, if I've got a relationship which is really difficult, is to, you can write their name on a piece of paper, and then you write your name across their name until their name's pretty much obliterated. So you can't read your name and you can't read their name. The idea is not that you're overpowering them. The idea isn't to manipulate them. The idea is that at the moment there is something, you can't stop thinking about somebody. You've had a fallout with somebody and you can't, I don't know why this relationship is doing my head in, but it is. Writing their name down and writing yours on top of it is about taking your power back from that relationship, not from including from that person, but from that dynamic, from that relationship. Why do you keep on thinking about it so much? When you're thinking about it, you're putting energy into it, right? What's going on with that? There's something not quite right. What you'll generally find when you do this sort of spell work is that you're going to either have a revelation in your head or a revelation in your life within 3 days. If you're not listening to the revelations in your head and you're not listening to the universe will push it and make physical changes happen within your life. So you do need to be careful. If you're not very good at listening to the universe and listening to your cues, then sometimes those situations can be big, because that's what the universe has to do in order to rid that stuff from your life. So generally, within 3 days of doing something, you're going to see a change within your life, or you're going to have a revelation in your head and go, oh, okay, I can see what's going on. I've got a caveat with the universe that everything I do happens at the right pace and with ease. so that I don't need, if you've got this urgency in your head when you do something, if you're an impatient person as well, you're going to find things happen in a bit more of an explosive way because you want it to happen soon. Don't put the caveat on it. Say in your head, for this happen, for the relationship to be realigned with ease, with grace, and at the right pace. Oh, it rhymes. With ease, with grace, and at the right pace. There's some magic, isn't there, when words rhyme? I don't like it when spells don't rhyme. There's something off, and that's bad magic. With ease, with grace, and at the right pace is what you want for anything that you do. So I would say that caveat's really important. If you're somebody, like I said, who's impatient, who doesn't listen for signs from the universe, put that in so that it happens easily, so that you spot it, so that you do something about it. When that text message comes, actually you kind of go, oh, the energy's been removed. I'm not even bothered about replying to them. Delete, block, whatever. Okay. But you will see within 3 days some change in yourself is what you're really looking for in response to them. You might even find that something that they're doing changes. So like I've seen things like people that actually, like I've done some work myself, and they've gone, oh, actually I'm going to stop doing this, or I'm going to stop offering this, or I'm going to stop something else. I'm going to stop, publicly put out that they're going to stop doing something. And it's because there's been some issue where work that I'm doing is similar to work that they're doing. And on some level, there's been an issue with those two people, with the two of us clashing, particularly if it's people who I've maybe thought about collaborating with, or I have collaborated with, and things have gone slightly wrong because what we're doing isn't aligned. And that's okay for me. Like, I'm really happy with stuff not being aligned and going, okay, this isn't working. Like, this is cool. This isn't working. Let's do something else. Other people aren't always, and they will really try to make it work, even though it's not. And that's not the position I come from. If it's not working, that's okay. We'll find something else to work on where our outlook is both the same. And what often happens then is that when I've done my personal work, that tie for them is gone into that work, and they've gone, oh, actually, it's not important for me anymore because I've done my work. It's therefore lost its importance for them as well, because the dynamic isn't actually right for either person, but the other person doesn't listen to their cues from the universe, which happens to all of us from time to time. So those are the types of things that you can do. Other questions to ask yourself around the victim role. Where have you been playing the victim? And what I would say to that also is, it's okay for us to feel like a victim from time to time. It's okay for us to feel vulnerable. It's okay for us to feel like we've been pissed on from a great height. All of that stuff's okay. So if you feel like you've been peed off from a great height, as long as you process it and go through the process of going through that and getting your own head around it, it's fine. The issue with sitting in victimhood is when you're sat in that for weeks and months, when you're sat in that same space where you're not moving on. And every relationship that we have, and being a victim in different situations, and the injury and trauma that's been caused is going to be different for different people in different situations. But making sure, if you're not processing it yourself internally, that you're looking for outside help to process that. I had somebody the other day who said, oh, I've really big revelations happened in their life. But somebody said to me, and they're right, I'm being sat in victim about it. You've been sat in victim about it for 2 weeks. You know what? That's all right. It's all right. Like, that's 2 weeks of your life for you to process a major thing. Like, and I say, like, when all of a sudden you go, oh my God, that view of myself has completely changed my life. Like, understanding that about myself has completely changed my life. This is a revelation within their life which changes their life, it changes their kids' life. Like, it's a massive revelation. It's okay for them to be a victim for a few weeks. It's okay to take some time to get your head around stuff. Like, don't beat yourself up by being a victim for a few days or a few weeks if you've got something which is absolutely life-changing. Like, it's okay to sit in that for a while. And anyone that tells you not, they're probably a little bit inflexible about the way that they view things. And they may process things quite easily, but it's probably going to come to a point in their life where they might struggle to process something for them to understand what it's like for other people. a lot of stuff I can process quite easily. And when I was younger, I used to struggle, and I mean a lot younger, I used to struggle to understand why other people didn't process stuff at the same rate or get their head around things in the same way that I did. And as I got older, I was like, no, it's okay, because I understand my connection, and I understand that my connection is quite natural. The way that my brain works, my brain functions isn't the same. Like, I'm not neurotypical, isn't the same as other people's. So my outlook is kind of like, oh, fuck it, for a lot of things. Fuck that. Like, in the best possible way, fuck that. What does it really matter? And other people, it takes them a lot longer to get to that. And that's okay. It was probably, again, around my mid-20s where I started changing the way that I looked at about that sort of thing. Because I realized how different I was internally to the way that everyone else is. And it's understanding the way that you process things and the way that other people process. And if you are an empath, you should be able to look at things entirely from somebody else's perspective, and use empathy as a tool that it is to see it from other people's perspectives entirely. And that's when my empath skills really stepped into the next level, because, you know, it's okay that everyone's brain works differently and that everyone processes things in different ways. Like, that's the way of the world, right? So that's just a bit about victimhood, a bit about being the villain. Newsflash, we are all the villain in somebody's life. Like, that person who's had to fall out with you in order for that relationship to stop, you played the role of villain in their life. Yeah. And that might be really hurtful, and you maybe can't understand why somebody sees you as a villain. But if they're sat in this dynamic, if for them the hero victim villain dynamic absolutely exists, those extremes of good and evil absolutely exist, then you are going to have to play the role of victim, so of villain, for them to finish a relationship with you, for them to behave towards you in the way that they have done. Some people are just vindictive and spiteful, but there will also be a reason. People need to justify stuff in their head, whether, you know, you're a psychopath or not. People need to justify why they've done what they've done in their lives. And it might have been that by having a conversation with you, that they would have seen your perspective, but they haven't done. And maybe you haven't done either. Maybe that's something that you should have done, is to actually go, look, I don't know what's going on with us, but I would really like to have a conversation about this. And if they don't want to have that conversation, that's fine. But reaching out quite often in those situations where you're being viewed as the villain helps. It doesn't always. I do really often try to reach out. And sometimes it absolutely clears stuff up. And sometimes you see that the person who you're dealing with is somebody who's stuck in a certain dynamic, stuck in a certain place in their head, or they actually probably need some professional help. And I have had people really turn on me when, as a professional, I've said to them that I'm genuinely worried about you. You know, this and this is going on. Like, can I please, you know, and you're sensitive as you possibly can I please ask that you get some extra help? Some people are going to respond to that positively and see that, and some people aren't, and that's okay. Like, that, all of that's okay. People don't have to respond to it positively. You don't have to do that, by the way. I'm just saying, as a professional, it's sometimes easier for me to have those conversations with people. Easier probably isn't the right word. I'm good at having those conversations with people. I have skills to have those conversations with people. They're still difficult for me to have on a personal level. Okay, so thinking about where you're playing the villain, where you can have those conversations, and where you can't, but getting your head around what they've done in their own head to justify it isn't going to make any sense to you. Their view of you is not going to make any sense to you, because they've had to skew your view in order to make you the villain. Okay, so also understanding that and going through, again, a process of healing, understanding, journaling, all of that stuff, being angry about that. Like, how the hell did you view me like that? Being pained about that, being upset about that, being disappointed, you know, especially when it's people who are close to you. You can absolutely be disappointed in them, be disappointed in a friendship, be disappointed in a family dynamic, in a family relationship. Okay, you're allowed to have all of those feelings, process those feelings, acknowledge those feelings, feel those feelings, heal them, work through them, so that you can let them go in whatever way you need to. Okay. What I'm going to do now is to kind of think about where you might sit in that dynamic. Okay, and when I go through this violet flame exercise with you, what you're going to, violet flame, by the way, works on like a lot of the mindsets. Violet flame works on our relationship with things. It works on our relationship with the world. It works on our reality. It's like a reality blueprint reset. So it's not just your own blueprint. It's kind of like a blueprint of I don't want to say the globe, but it's a blueprint of a relationship. So if you kind of even think about violet flame, you know, you get those sort of technical drawings, which are kind of like circuits and things like that. That's how it looks to me in my head. Those kind of technical drawings of circuitry and bits and pieces, or even like the tube and things like that. You know, when I say the tube, I mean the underground train. For anyone who's international doesn't know what I mean by the tube. So it's thinking about that dynamic and healing those strings, healing those circuits, that they sit in alignment. Everything that is in your reality forms part of your reality. Okay. So if you feel anger about that, it's because there's anger in your reality about certain situations. There'll be some personal experiences that might have added to that anger, or that pain, or that disappointment, or however it is that you feel about that situation, even if that situation doesn't affect you directly. So, you know, you think about things that are going on all over the world. And I'm not just going to talk about places like Ukraine and Russia, because there are dynamics like that, and there are wars that have been happening for a very, very long time, happen all the time, all over the world, that don't hit our news as much because it's not happening in Europe. And, you know, it does make sense that we're hearing more about it now because it affects us so much more. But equally, we can do this stuff with anything that happens at any point. So you don't need to use a violet flame. You don't need a direct relationship with what's happening, as in it's not happening to you personally, but it's affecting your reality. So it is on some level happening to you personally. Does that make sense? And you're healing the feelings within yourself and how you feel about that situation in order to bring healing to that dynamic in the best possible way. So again, violet flame works on best personal interests and highest vibration as well. That's the best outcome for all. So when we apply this to that relationship, like you can kind of see those circuitries between you, and maybe there's a few people, maybe as I've been talking, you've gone, oh my God, yeah, this, and I'd be really interested to know if anyone's gone, oh, epiphany, I keep falling into that dynamic, that relationship, that friendship, you know, that work colleague. Oh my God, that keeps repeating. So thinking about, you might think about a succession, or it might be like, oh my God, I know what it is. And I know the core relationship that this goes back to. I know where I program myself. Or that need. Okay, I need to be needed. I need to be the hero. I need to be whatever, healing that within yourself as well at the same time. So what we're going to do is we're going to, with the violet flame, I'm going to visualize us stepping out of that dynamic, closing that dynamic down. Okay. And then we're going to explore those feelings within us and heal those feelings. If you can hear screaming in the background, I apologize. It is my autistic children deciding to, the two older ones, deciding to have a fight, which is always fun on a Saturday lunchtime, right? When you're trying to do something which involves quiet. So if you do hear that, I don't really apologize because they're autistic and it's okay. And even if they weren't, they're kids, and kids explore the power dynamics within their relationships, sometimes by acting like, I don't know, like lion cubs and just getting each other. That's how it works, right? So, okay, they've gone quiet. I don't know how long it lasts for. I'm just going to ask you to send to yourself. Okay, violet flame is a vibration that I've been attuned to, but I realized I was using for a long time anyway when I found out what it is. It might be that something, now that I've introduced this to you, it might be something that you can call on a regular basis. You might not find it is. Everyone works differently. Okay, so this is something which, this particular visualization, you know, if you want to save this, and you can use this whenever you need to around relationships. Okay, so just send to yourself. And I want you to feel your connection down into the earth, but I want you to travel down into the earth with your connection. You're not watching your connection, you are your connection. So feeling yourself sink down into the earth in whichever way you ground in. It might be that your connection to the earth lies within water and the seas or the rivers, or it might be that it lies within mud and dirt. However it works easier for you, go with that. And you're going to come to a space which is warm and nurturing. And you might fall into a space or into a cave or into a chasm. You might just connect in with that amazing energy which sits within the earth and just feel that flame. And from within the space within the earth, visualize that flame coming up. It might not be violet, it can be any color. And that color and that resonance will be perfect for you at this time. And from deep within the earth, allow that to surround you, to envelop you. And imagine yourself coming back up into your body, back up into yourself, bringing that flame from all the way beneath the earth and allowing it to envelop your actual body, burning out from your aura anything that you no longer need, any ties, readjust yourself if you need to. Anything within your aura, anything negative, anything heavy, anything which no longer serves you, anything which you no longer want, anything which you no longer need. Just burning away anything. This in itself is a tie cutting process. At the same time, recall back in your energy from wherever you need to. Feeling it come back in through that flame and burning away anything which is held, where you've put your energy into something else, where you need to recall it back in. I recommend doing this daily, calling that energy back in through the flame, so that when it comes back to your energy, it's pure and whole and right for you. Not with any of the stuff. That was the other person's attached to it. Okay, now I want you to imagine a beam of light coming down from the heavens. You can imagine that coming down from a particular star, coming down from the sun. Stars, including our own sun, represent an absolute purest form source energy, the absolute energetic building blocks of the universe. This is the stuff, the fire, the brimstone that we are all made out of, and that the planet herself is made from. Just allowing that beam of light to come down, engaging your upper chakras, the flame engaging your lower chakras, engaging your heavenly self and your earthly self. Knowing that you exist in all planes at the same time. Knowing that your reality is both one which is very, very human and raw and real. And your reality is also one which is heavenly and has an amazing perspective and an ability to step away where it needs to. But both of these things happen cohesively and easily at the same time. You are both spirit and mortal. Just sit in that energy for a moment. Feel the beam come down and the flame rush up. Now I want you to visualize maybe a series of triangles. Maybe it's two ways. Maybe there's specific people at specific points. Maybe a relationship which is going on now, or a relationship in the past. So you may see layers of energy and that circuitry. You've got no idea who it's linking to. It makes no difference. However it appears for you or feels to you, you might feel somebody else close to you. You might feel the connection of somebody else. That's the relationship that you're working on. I just want you to, either with your hands or with your mind, visualize that circuitry being pushed away from you. Being held within a space which is detached from you. There might be an orb or some other sacred geometry. And you're observing that from the outside. The flame It's burning brighter and brighter as that has moved away from you. So you can see that situation with perspective. And from the outside, you're going to heal those dynamics. You're going to heal those circuits. You're going to heal that relationship with that person or those people. And if it is people, imagine them in a bubble. You're not wishing them ill. You're not wishing them love. You're wishing really logically that this situation is resolved in the best possible way. We're using logic here, people, okay? You might want to put your hand up. It's just healing that relationship, healing that dynamic, healing those threads. And as it does, the definition of that image in front of you starts to lose shape. It might be that it goes from HD to SD and it starts getting pixelated and starts falling apart. It might become fluffy and misty. It might just fall apart in front of your eyes, or you can just feel that connection, that emotion that's attached to it lessening and lessening as we use the flame. And imagine the flame coming from your hand as well. And imagine either another vibration coming in from the other side or your hand coming in from the other side and adding a second dynamic to that as well. You think about one hand being for receiving and one hand being for projecting, depending on the dominance of your hand. This is the energy that you're working with. How it attaches to you and how you project this out. Both of those things are that. How you project out and seek out from your reality, and what you choose to receive and what is projected at you in your reality. And healing both of those things. Like I said, either with your hand or imagining energy, vibration, feeling vibrations coming in. And then imagine from the base of your belly, energy swirling, coming up. Exhale, release that out of you into that situation, moving it further away, using your personal power, your personal energy to move that situation even further away, to remove it from you, re-establishing your personal power, however that looks, however gentle or strong, however placid, or however outgoing, your personal strengths, feeling that power. If you're good at visualizing, you can visualize this whole thing going into a 2D shape, going into a 2D dynamic, looking like a piece of paper, looking like a shape out of Superman. You know what I'm talking about, the prisons in Superman and the original Superman. Just that falling flat, falling on the floor, turning into nothing. A piece of paper which becomes a black and white photocopy, which gets washed away in the rain, which is fragmented and fragile and falling apart and blows away in the wind. Or which even creates a different portal to a different reality, and it falls in and collapses in itself, leaving nothing. And just place in its place a ball of violet flame, whichever colour flame you're working with, in its space in front of you. The violet flame holding the space of that relationship, the violet flame holding the space for that dynamic, so that whatever fills it is correct, is right, is best for all parties concerned. Just feeling back into your heart energy, feeling back into yourself, feeling back into your reality, trusting and knowing that what you've put in place is going to work. Okay. Take your time, open your eyes, fingers, toes, all of that type of thing, okay? have a drink. Water, have a drink. A really important thing to remember as an empath is that your empathy is a tool. It is a tool. It is the same as visualization. It is the same as clairaudience, where you hear. It's a tool, okay? As an empath, it's far easier to own that emotion. It's far easier to own it because we feel it, right? And we get mixed up. And with time of you noticing what is yours and what isn't yours, what you're going to find is that you can use it as a tool, and you can step in on it and step out of it. And that when you step into it, you're aware that you're stepping into it, or that you can step away from it easier when you need to. We own those emotions. The amount of times when I teach people Reiki, or even answer other people's students' questions about Reiki, and they go, oh yeah, but I keep on getting other people's ailments. You're not. Your body is a dowser. You know, okay, dowsing pendants, dowser. Your body is the original first dowser. Your body is telling you and reading a situation and telling you what's going on. Okay. Once you realize that, you know, you go into the supermarket and you feel weird because you're picking up on everyone else's energy. Draw your energy in. Your energy's out reaching for other people's crap. Draw your energy in, make it feel solid and secure, make it work for you. You know, you're not in the supermarket to worry about, you know, other people's issues in the supermarket, unless it's you've got the energy for it and the vibe for it and all of that stuff. You know, if your empathy is disabling you, it's because you're reaching out too far. You're reaching out too much. It's imbalanced. And I often feel that. And if you're a Reiki practitioner and you work with other people, I'm sure you feel when people's heart energy is like, ooh, okay, we need to bring that in. It needs to be in balance for you. Use it as the tool it is. And when we start bringing in logic, which is why I spoke about logic, you're not giving the other person love. You're not giving the other person hate. You just logically want the situation to be balanced, right? That's what makes sense. So the second you start dipping into logic rather than emotion, is a second that the relationship can realign itself where it needs to for both of you. That doesn't mean that that's, you know, redo that whenever you need to with relationships. It's a really good way to do it. Okay, you can reuse that whenever you need to, that particular visualization. Remember that your empathy is a tool. It's a really, really important lesson for empaths. Right, I am done. Probably done much longer than I wanted to, because I think it was a big subject. So what I will do is I will let you go on Instagram. I'll pop these videos up on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, the links I've spoken about should appear in the comments or in the blurb somewhere. Same on Facebook. Unfortunately, Instagram isn't that friendly when it comes to links. So I can't do that for you guys on Instagram. But I will love you and leave you. Have a fab weekend.